In Tragedy, a true crime podcast, we discuss missing persons cases, violent crime, and other sensitive topics that may be difficult for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Our show is a place where every story matters and every voice deserves to be heard. To support this podcast, you can subscribe at www.tragedyaTrueCrimePodcast.com for early access to new episodes. And join our Facebook community, Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast, for updates, discussions, and ways to support the families we feature. Welcome to Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast. I'm Elisa.
And I'm Michael.
Today we're speaking with Amanda Rowton, one of Hailey's friends. Amanda spent time with Hailey and remembers the normal, everyday parts of her life, the things that can sometimes get lost when a case becomes about timelines and unanswered questions. In this conversation, Amanda helps us understand who Hailey was and what she remembers about the time before Hailey disappeared. Thank you for joining us, sharing your memories, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, before we get into the actual interview, there's a game that we've started playing this season. So, Elisa, you want to kick our question game off?
Yes. We have 3 questions for you, Amanda. We're going to start with an easy one. This is about peanut butter. Do you like crunchy peanut butter or smooth peanut butter?
Definitely smooth peanut butter.
Boo. How about you, Michael?
Oh, you already know the answer to that because, I think crunchy peanut butter is something they should have never invented. Smooth peanut butter only, because to me, it just gets rid of the fun.
Smooth peanut butter gets rid of the fun, or crunchy makes it?
Crunchy makes it unfun.
Oh, I see.
It gets in my mouth.
See, now, my daughter also smooth. So when she was young and growing up, I'm obviously on Team Crunchy. I would buy crunchy peanut butter, and they're like, why are you doing this? And then, of course, the crunchy peanut butter would last for a year, and the smooth would be gone in about 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
Well, crunchy peanut butter is just not done. They didn't finish it.
They didn't finish.
I have the same opinion of crunchy peanut butter that I have.
It's not done.
It's cottage cheese. Like, who invented cottage cheese, and how did they know they were done?
But you also don't like cottage cheese, and I like cottage cheese.
I do not.
I'm starting to think.
Too.
See, okay. So I thought for you, I think this is a consistency issue, Michael.
Oh, I agree.
I think that's what it is. Okay. Question number 2. What is the last TV show you binge watched?
That would be Virgin River.
I don't know that
Never
one.
heard of it.
It's on Netflix.
Oh. And tell us a little bit about it.
So it's about a doctor who came back to Virgin River, the town where her dad was at. Well, she thought it was her biological dad. Anyways, she came back over there to open up a small practice. It's like a small town, and ends up falling in love over there. And her and her husband try to have a baby, and there's a lot of stuff along the way. It's like it's a girl chick flick.
So, Michael, you want to start binge watching that tonight?
No.
It's really good.
Okay, Michael, how about you?
Pluribus is, I think, the last thing we technically binge watched.
Yeah.
And I would love to explain what it's about, but I'm not sure.
Is this the one that's on Apple TV only?
It's on Apple TV only, and it's the one where the people got taken over and they become this collective mind.
There's like
and then there's a handful of people that don't get impacted by it, and you're watching them live through this. So it's hard to explain.
It is kind of weird.
How it works, but that's
about that.
Yeah, but that's the last thing we've been trying. I actually find it's interesting, but it has long segments of boring too.
Yeah, there was that one episode where there was like 6 words.
6 words the whole episode.
Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
So we don't have Apple TV, and we spend a lot of time traveling the country in our camper. And so sometimes we do this thing called mooch docking, where you stay at someone's house and use their things. And where we are at that time, the person had Apple TV. So we were like, ooh, Apple TV. So we started like checking out things that we wouldn't have access to normally. That's how we came up with Pluribus. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So for me, I have an affinity for shows like The Circle, Love is Blind, and those kinds of things, which, go ahead, Michael, I know you'd like to add.
This is awful.
He hates them. So does my daughter. And so when he goes like out of town for work or goes like on a boys fishing trip or something over the weekend, I order lots of Mexican DoorDash Mexican food DoorDash, and I watch The Circle and 90 Day Fiance and Love is Blind and all of those things. So that's what I like to binge watch because
that sounds amazing.
you're not around and I know you hate them. And my daughter too. She's like, this is garbage. I'm like, you're a girl. You're supposed to like this. And she doesn't want to watch it. Okay, well, Virgin River. But you gave that a big fat no. So Amanda and I will be watching TV together.
Yep.
Okay, last question. If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Oh, that would be to listen to my mom. Growing up, all kids think that they know everything and that their parents don't know anything. And in the end, parents are always right. And I'm going through that with my 16-year-old daughter right now who thinks that I don't know anything. And I remember fighting with my mom all the time, telling her, you don't understand, you don't understand. But as I grow up, I realized she understood everything. And everything that she would advise me to do or against is the same things I'm doing with my daughter right now. And if I would have just listened to her, it would have cut out all those fights along the way.
Interesting. Michael?
With me, I think it would be really around work. I think I spent a great deal of my time being really serious about work, and I allowed my work to become my identity, or a significant component of my identity. And I think I regret that now that I've gotten older. And so even with this new job, while I do enjoy my new job, I keep a very specific separation between family and work or friends and work or anything. Work is work, and it's not part of my identity anymore. And I think it's a better choice. I just wish I learned it sooner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. For me, it's really simple. It's be nice. I wasn't the nicest of girls in high school. I was one of those mean girls.
She was a mean girl.
I was a mean girl. I'm not proud of it. And I don't really know what it was about or why I did it. But now I have these shirts that say, be kind to everybody. And people are like, you're always so nice. And I'm like, I got to make up for some poor choices I made growing up. So like, just be nice. Be nice to people. Don't be a bossy bee, I guess, is the word, is what I would tell myself. All right. Well, thank you for that. I think I need to keep asking questions until I get a Team Crunchy person. Yeah, there's somebody out there.
Give that up.
They make crunchy peanut butter for a reason.
Yeah, because there's
Has anybody said yes yet?
Well, I think we haven't. We usually ask different questions, but I think I might stick with this one for a little while.
No, I just think you're just going to find people that aren't smart or have bad taste.
That like crunchy peanut butter.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks. That's good. Okay. All right. So let's pivot and let's talk about Hailey. And the first thing we'd like for you to tell us is, how did you know Hailey? What is your relationship with Hailey and maybe your best memory?
So I first met Hailey, I was 21, 22, so this was 20 years ago. The father of her oldest daughter was my daughter's father's best friend. And so they kind of introduced us. We were pregnant with our daughters at the same time. And so, that's how we first became to be friends, is through them. And then along the way, Hailey is just somebody that her personality just shines and you're just naturally drawn to her. Has the biggest heart. And I mean, when she loves somebody, she truly loves them. And so we, throughout the years, we would lose touch and come back. But it was like, you always pick up like no time has ever lapsed, One of my favorite memories, I mean, we have a lot together, but I struggled in my past with substance use and mental health. And when I first turned my life around, her and I got an apartment together. And so it was her, I, and my daughter. And there was numerous nights where we would just all snuggle in Hailey's bed and watch TV and, just be girls and pig out and just laugh. And it was really good times.
And so if we think about sort of the days and the weeks and the months that led up to when you all became aware that it had been a good period of time before Hailey had reached out, did you notice anything that was unusual or different about her leading up to that time?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't. I have been fostering Hailey's middle daughter for the last 3.5, almost 4 years. And so for a year and a half before she went missing, I didn't really communicate with her as much. Um, it kind of changed our relationship because, as much as I love Hailey, I took on this role to love and protect her daughter as well. And so I had to set up some pretty strict boundaries with her. And so, I would message her and check in on her every once in a while, but it kind of pulled me in two different directions because here I am, raising her daughter, and she would come to the visits and stuff, but we just kind of lost touch because with fostering, they tell you not to intertwine those two worlds. So I didn't really notice as much as other people did just because I wasn't as close in her life at the time.
When you say what other people notice, what types of things were other people noticing?
Like when Shasta was the first one to notice that she hadn't been active online, um, and she wasn't responding to her messages and stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about, is just because I wasn't looking to message her and talk to her all the time like other people were. So I didn't notice a difference of her not posting things online or calling or, returning phone calls or anything like that.
Because at the time, your communication, as you just established, was the visitation. And so
Yes.
she was sometimes coming to those, sometimes not. So you didn't necessarily see any change because it seems like it may have been unpredictable just by nature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How are the visitations going?
At that point, pretty sporadic. For the first year and a half that I had her daughter, she never made it to a full week of visits. She would see her a couple times a week, but it wasn't the normal amount of scheduled visits. Like, she didn't make it to all of them. And so, yeah.
So it just seems like in general, and I think Shasta had talked to us about this too, is sometimes she wouldn't be communicating online and she might kind of fall off, and then she would come back and start communicating again, and then she would fall off. And it wasn't until there was a longer period of time, seems like maybe 3 to 4, maybe even 5 weeks, that's when Shasta's kind of red flags started going up.
Exactly, because she would have a phone, and then she would lose the phone or it would get broken, so then she'd have to get another one, and that's just kind of routine when you're in that world. It's not anything out of the ordinary. Nobody thinks anything of it. And then they first noticed, oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
They first noticed on Thanksgiving, she would always reach out to her mom no matter what. Any holiday, she would always reach out and say Happy Thanksgiving or Merry Christmas or whatever. And Thanksgiving and Christmas both came and went, and there was no word from her. And so that's when it kind of drew a red flag.
So that's exactly what we're talking about when we're thinking about what's out of, even if it's an unpredictable norm, there are some norms that were established, the Thanksgiving, the Christmas, and those messages didn't happen. And that's when things, people started kind of rallying around. Yep. So
Exactly.
Tell us about your recollections when you first began to learn that she had not communicated for several months, and then, things started moving forward with the missing persons. Tell us about your experience with that.
It was really hard. Like I said, fostering her daughter, it's been, it's changed our relationship. And so Hailey and I weren't always on the best of terms the last couple of years. And it kind of played a trick with my mind. Like, I started thinking like, well, maybe if I would have reached out more, or if I would have called more, maybe things could have been different. So it was really hard. And I started looking back on my messages, seeing when the last time that I had talked to her, or when the last time she had reached out to me. And then Shasta and I kind of compared, days and times. And the last time that I had heard anything from her was in the summer before. So there wasn't, I couldn't really do much to help as far as the timeline went with that. But at first I thought, maybe, well, this can't be true. Like, she's going to be okay. Maybe she ended up going to treatment like she said she was, or maybe, she's just, somewhere where she doesn't have service, because at the time where she was staying, she would go in and out of service. But then, days turned into weeks, turned into months. And, you know, that's when we kind of realized like something isn't right.
How did you end up fostering for her?
So, Hailey and I have been close for a long time. Her daughter, I kept her overnight for the first time when she was just 2 weeks old. My daughter is like a little mama herself and just loves babies, loves babysitting. And we found out that she had the baby. And so she's like, Mom, can you call Hailey, have her bring the baby over? And I was like, well, no, she's only 2 weeks old. I doubt she's going to do that. But surprisingly, I think Hailey was just exhausted and kind of needed a break. So we kept her overnight. And then the next day, Hailey came and got her. And then it was just kind of like normal. She would message me or my daughter and be like, hey, do you want to babysit for a little bit? So then we had her daughter at least a few times a week for months before I ended up getting her placed with me. She was at our house 3 to 4 days sometimes, because they would pay my daughter to babysit, and she's, not going to turn down money and not going to turn down time to spend with a baby. And so she was at our house all the time anyways. And then she September 21st of 2022, so sorry. She was less than 9 months old. Anyways, I got a call from Hailey, and she was at the hospital with DCYF, and they were taking the baby. And so she had asked me if I could foster her. And I personally myself didn't think that they would approve me, because, like I said, I've struggled with mental health and chemical dependency in my past as well. I've gotten into some trouble too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, of course I will, but I doubt they're going to approve me. And so then I talked to the worker, and 2 hours later, there was a knock on my door. And, they said it was only going to be for 72 hours at the time. And that was 3.5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I understand there have been or are coming some shifts with some of Hailey's children. And does that involve her middle child, the one you have?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So her oldest daughter is 16, and Hailey's mom has custody of her and has since she was 3 weeks old. I have her middle daughter, who just turned 4, and then her younger daughter is 2, and she's up in Federal Way with her Hailey's sister, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
So the younger two's dad just got out of prison back in March, and has been doing really well. He's been doing everything that DCYF has asked him, done treatment, got his own housing, got off probation, everything like that. So the girls have been actually going and seeing him quite a bit. They have overnights on the weekends and then visits throughout the day. So everything's kind of up in the air right now. Nothing's changed as of yet, but eventually that's where it's looking like the girls are going to be back with their dad sooner rather than later.
Talk to us a little bit about, once the missing person case was filed, what do you recollect about the community and law enforcement's reaction and support for you all and for Hailey's family?
Oh, I honestly, in my opinion, it doesn't seem like law enforcement has really taken it serious. I believe it's mainly been Shasta and everyone that she has gathered to help her. There's been many tips that have came in, and a lot of people have said, like, hey, I reached out to the deputy, with some information. I can't seem to get a hold of them. People would call in tips, and it seemed like there was no follow through. I don't know if that's for sure or not. It's just kind of the stigma around it, because, Hailey was an addict. She had mental health issues, and it just seems like a lot more cases get more like publicity about it, more people trying, like boots on the ground looking than Hailey's case has. It seems like, I don't know, it just makes me sick just thinking that, just because of her issues that they aren't giving it as much attention that it seems. And I know people, there's a lot of different tips that come in, and if people are following all these tips, if these cops would be following all these tips, they would be running around ragged. I get that. But it's like, numerous people have called in with different tips, and it just doesn't seem like any of them were followed up on. And people would have to go through Shasta to get a tip or a message to the detective because he wouldn't return any phone calls to anybody else.
Yes, and I hear Shasta talk about, she'd hear about some sort of tip, and it doesn't matter what time of the day or night it is. She's up, she's out, she's going.
Mm-hmm.
She's chasing the tip at like 2 a.m, 3 a.m, whatever time it is, and then turning it back around to Detective Hanbury to give him the information that she's gathered.
Yeah.
And this is not, unfortunately, this is not unusual. We have a couple of families that we have supported where there's been something that has marginalized the person who is missing, and those families say the same thing. They say, because my son XYZ, we don't feel like law enforcement is doing their due diligence. So it's become kind of a reoccurring story on our side. And so one of our big things is to make sure that we are giving you all an opportunity to talk about Hailey as a person and not talk about some of those characteristics and behaviors that she had. And so it's why it's so important for us that we're able to speak with you and just learn about Hailey, the person.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And do you recall in some of our other cases that we've covered, there's been a massive community, even if it's a small community. We've had people say as soon as somebody was said they were missing, people come and they search and they walk the roads and they look along the roadways and they look over the embankments, because a lot of our people go missing in cars. Do you remember anything happening like that, like searches that were put just community-based searching?
The only searches that I'm aware of that have gone on is from what Shasta has pulled together.
Mm-hmm.
She's gone out there. In the beginning, it was almost daily. There would be different places that she would go search, daily, going door to door, knocking on people's doors, handing out flyers, going anywhere. As far as others, there hasn't been any other searches besides the one that she's put together.
Something that is interesting that happened to me personally, when we find out about someone who's missing or an unsolved homicide, I first start out just by seeing what I can learn about that person. Have there been news reports? Have there been, Facebook groups? And of course, I found the Facebook group right away. But when I went outside of that, I wasn't really able to find very much about Hailey. In fact, something that I did find that Shasta and I talked about wasn't even about Hailey. It was about somebody else, because the Google searches was just like combining things. And it just is unnerving, I guess, to me that there didn't appear to be a lot of press acknowledging that she had been missing, even like a local paper or a local Facebook group or something like that. And that's just, again, something that we hear, unfortunately, quite often.
True.
Yeah.
Why do you think that that Hailey has not been found, or what do you think are some barriers? Perhaps maybe somebody knows something, or what do you think is preventing this from maybe moving forward?
Well, I know somebody knows something. I mean, whoever did this knows exactly where she is. I also believe that in that lifestyle, people are afraid of what's going to happen to them if they come forward with any kind of truth, any kind of evidence, because there's always the backlash or people getting back at people for, going to the cops and snitching is what they call it, I don't know. This person that is supposedly responsible for her disappearance knows the woods like the back of his hand. He's grown up in the woods. He's lived his whole life out there. And so I believe that he's really good at hiding things that he doesn't want to be found. I don't know. I'm just at a loss for words with how long it's been, and we've found absolutely nothing.
One thing I'm curious about is, we talked about this mushroom picking, kind of weekend. Is this something she normally did?
Not that I know of. But like I said, haven't been in her life for the past few years, so I don't know what she was doing day to day. When you're in that life, it's just kind of spur of the moment every day. Somebody brings you an idea, you want to go do this for the day, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds fun. So I don't know. I know she did like to go out and go to the river or go, on a hike and look for different rocks and agates and stuff like that. So it's not too far out of, the stretch of things that she would like to do. As far as mushroom picking, I personally have never heard her going mushroom picking, but our relationship's kind of been changed the last few years, so I don't know.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because I do know people who do that in Colorado when we lived there. And most of the people that I knew did that were really into it. Like they would go out with books and they had all this research they've done. It doesn't seem like a spur of the moment thing, which is why I thought it was strange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what the person claimed.
Yeah, because you can go out there and pick something that can hurt you if you don't really know what you're looking
especially
for.
with those. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I would love to have more information about some of the interviews that were conducted, particularly with this person that we know for a fact was the last person to see her and came out of this area on his own. And I have requested records from local law enforcement. And because it's an active case, we're not getting anything, which we completely understand because we don't want to compromise what's going on in the case. But I'm just wondering if there's been any chatter in the community about what has been said from anybody who has been interviewed, or if anyone knows anything about what was said.
All that I know is that this person and Hailey supposedly went out to Rose Valley to go mushroom picking. He sent a friend, hours later, a message saying, I need help. I'm out at this location. I lost my friend. I need you to come pick me up. As far as any other statements, I don't know. Supposedly, the Shasta said the cops had even interviewed this person and asked him, when was the last time you saw Hailey? And he had even told the cops that they were out at the woods and this time, and that he lost her. And that was that. Like, he just lost her. They didn't follow up on it anymore. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about the impact that her disappearance has had on you.
It's been really hard. Like I said, her and I have lost contact, or lost, not really contact, but our relationships changed, over the few years that I've had her daughter. And, it has played a big guilt trip on me, thinking, maybe I should have reached out more. Maybe I should have, tried to do this or do that. And I mean, at the end of the day, I know that I did the right thing, and I'm taking care of her daughter like she had asked me to, and she knows that I love her. And I had tried numerous times to reach out and get her into treatment and, get her help. But it's just been really hard because, I look at her daughter and I'm not her mom, I'm her mom every day, but I'm not her birth mom. And I see Hailey in her every single day, and that's just, it's good and bad, I see the best parts of Hailey every day. She has her smile, her quirky dance moves, her laugh, she's Hailey in a little girl. And at the same time, that just breaks my heart because she'll never get to meet her mom, and see the amazing person that Hailey is. And it's just, I don't know, it's hard because it's just a constant reminder of what a beautiful person Hailey was or is, and it just messes with my head a lot and makes me feel like I should have done different, and I should have, you know, played both sides and like helped her as much as I could while at the same time raising her daughter and doing everything that I'm doing. But I don't, it's been really hard. Hailey and I have had our ups and downs in our friendships, but we've had a lot of really good times together. She is an amazing person. And like I said, her smile could light up the room, and she was funny, and she was, a really good friend and always there to help you if needed. And it's been really hard.
Is there anything that you wanted to share or anything that you wanted to say that we did not give you an opportunity to say?
Just that, we need answers. We need, she has 3 girls that are missing their mom. They deserve answers. Her mom deserves answers. Her family deserves answers. She wasn't just another, drug addict, somebody with mental health issues that had gone missing. Like, she is an amazing person. She has family and friends and people that love her, and we just want answers.
You've been listening to Tragedy, a true crime podcast. Our purpose is to honor victims by sharing their stories through the voices of friends, family, and those whose lives were forever changed. If today's episode resonated with you, we encourage you to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast so these important stories continue to be heard. Together, we can preserve their memories and ensure their voices are never forgotten. If you have ideas for cases we should cover or questions about what you heard, you can connect with us through our Facebook group, Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast, on X @Tragedy Podcast, by email at tragedyaTrueCrimePodcast@gmail.com, or by visiting our website, www.tragedyaTrueCrimePodcast.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope you'll join us next time.